Thanks for joining us today on Coastal and Progressive Rainbow Forum on Society Bites Radio. Today we will be speaking with Dominique Brown. She is candidate for Manatee County Commission District 1. Welcome, Dominique. I'm so glad to have you here today, and we're so thrilled to be able to do an interview with you and let people here in Manatee County and I guess around the world, because we are global, know a little bit more about your candidacy. Tell us a little bit about your background and how where you grew up and where you went to school and things like that, if you could. That'd be great to hear.
Thank you for having me this morning. I grew up here in Manatee County. My dad was in the Army, and when he separated, we moved to Bradenton. I grew up on the east side of Bradenton mostly, but we moved around a lot, and so I also lived in Palmetto for a short portion of my life. I went to school here. I went to a lot of different elementary schools. I ended up at middle school at Powell before it was Team Success when it first became a charter school, and then I went to high school at Southeast.
Okay, and where did you go from there then? You went on to, I know you have several degrees, and you're a successful person. Tell us a little bit about
you.
Yeah.
So after high school, I joined the military. I joined the U.S. Air Force at the age of 17.
That's impressive.
Thank you. I served for 12 years in both active duty and the reserves. While in the service, I was stationed many places. First, I think I was in Texas, then I went to Mississippi, to Kansas, back to North Carolina, and then finally down to Florida. I did a combat tour in 2007 in Afghanistan, in Kandahar. After separating from the reserves, the Air Force Reserves, I obtained my bachelor's degree and my master's degree from Florida A&M. Both are in criminal justice. And then I went on to earn my Juris Doctor, or my law degree, from North Carolina Central. I spent most of my adult life in public service. Thank you. After getting my law license, I served as a prosecutor in North Carolina. And then when I moved back here to Florida, I served as a public defender. And I really enjoyed both of those jobs. I did have to resign from the public defender's office when I filed my qualifying paperwork to run for this election.
Okay. Excellent. Well, that helps us understand a little bit more about your background, how you came to this decision. Tell us a little bit too what some of your plans are and things you'd like to see done if you are elected to the Manatee County Commission, and we certainly hope you are going to be elected, because we have. I'm going to throw something out that you can talk about it at some point here. And a lot of us were very disappointed when they failed to adapt a mask policy here. And as science tells us that we would have been out of this mess with the COVID-19 had people been required to wear a mask and stop spreading the virus. So put that aside a little bit, but tell us a little bit about and then you can go back to that later, but tell us a little bit about your decision to run and what led you to that decision.
Well, I always knew I wanted to run. I decided to file my paperwork to run for District 1 for the county commissioner seat because of all the things that I saw that were going on within our district and within our county. There are leaders who've been elected, but at this point in time, we need leaders who are willing to lead. The current Board of Commissioners have passed the buck on a lot of different issues that should be addressed by them. And it's become we're not going to touch that issue because, the people are going to get upset at us and it's an election year, or, my constituents will be upset at me. But when you are chosen to lead, you have to lead. You can't say, I'm afraid to lead because someone won't like the decision that I make. We have to consider the welfare of all of the constituents within our county, specifically District 1 for me. If there are decisions that need to be made that benefit everyone, then a small portion of those voices should not be the controlling factor in making those decisions. I've realized that there are a lot of people who feel that their voices aren't being heard. They don't necessarily have the access to the information on when meetings are being held or how they access meetings, or the meetings are held at a time where it's inconvenient for them because they have to work so they can't attend, or the meetings are just too long and drawn out, and they don't want to sit for the entire time and wait until the end to have their voices heard. Other people have told me that they don't even know how to sign up. So during my campaign, I have been speaking to a lot of people and informing them and educating them on how to access this information, what website to go to, where you can find the calendar, where you can find the agenda, so that they can see the issues that are being addressed and speak up for the concerns that they have. So I'm running because I would like to be that voice for District 1. I think that when elected, I will bring diversity to the Board of Commissioners, but I also bring a strong background of leadership. From my public service work that I've done in the past, I've been able to work with people from around the globe, literally. And so I can work with anyone. But we have to keep the mission in mind. And what is that mission? It's to make sure that our county is successful and that we are making sure that voices are heard and that the people are actually governing the county, because we serve the people. We don't serve our own selves. So I keep that in mind, and I talk to the people, and I'm asking, let me know what it is that you need, what you want to see different in District 1 and within Manatee County, because we do have to vote on these things as a board. That is essentially why I'm running.
Excellent, excellent. And let's go. I want to go to the mask situation again. And, you know, science has told us repeatedly that people would wear a mask, the spread of the COVID-19 virus would be greatly reduced. And yet Manatee County still refused to adopt a policy on this and stand firm against everything that science tells us. So I'm going to ask you very point blank here. Do you believe in science, Dominique?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. You know, you would be surprised at some of the people who apparently do not believe in science and don't think it's reality, and that's unfortunate, because science has told us, you know, we would not be in this mess we're in right now that had we been wearing masks months ago, and not being where we're at and having wherever the death toll is up to now. I mean, we've lost more people. I just read an article that we've lost more people to COVID than we have in several of our combined wars. You know, and that's disheartening and discouraging when we have a total failure of leadership in some areas, just an absolute failure, and that comes right down to our level here. Why would Manatee County Commissioners fail to understand the seriousness of the situation? You know, whatever their excuse is, it does not ring true when you have people's lives that are put at stake and people who are dying in this county and all across the country when they're failing to do their job. So, with that said, tell me some more things that you'd like to do and things that you see are need improvement here, and things that could be, you know, I know you need input from your constituents. Hopefully some of them will be listening to this broadcast, and we can try to give some ideas here and please give your website here. Don't forget to do that. In fact, can give it a couple of times so people can reach out to you and give direct input to you.
Okay. So first, I would like to talk about the mask. I believe that people should be required to wear masks. Even in my office, if someone wants to come in and speak to me, they are required to wear a mask upon entry. And then I have hand sanitizer available, and we do physically distance ourselves so that we're not within 6 feet of each other. Excuse me. If I were a county commissioner, I would put the motion on the floor for it to become a requirement that if you're out in a public place and not just government buildings, that you would be required to wear a mask until, you know, this whole thing passes over, the numbers drop down. But even then, I think that we would all be a lot safer if we wear face coverings when we're out in public than not. And I think that that was an opportunity for our current District 1 commissioner to vote on that and or put a motion in place for that. There was a motion put in by a different commissioner, but it wasn't. I'm sorry, the other commissioners did not vote to implement that rule. So I think that was an opportunity that she missed and that she should have voted for, because we do need it, especially with the numbers the way that they are right now. Some of the other things that I noticed within our district that needs changing, it's not really in our district, it's all over Manatee County. Number one is traffic. We have terrible traffic when school's in session, and they're talking about sending the kids back to school on August 17th. When school is in session, the traffic is horrible. It takes me 45 minutes to get from my house, which is by the outlets, over to Cortez Road and 43rd. And that's because the bridges are backed up. They're mostly 2-lane or 4-lane on each side. And it's horrible. We need other modes of transportation to be provided within our county so that we don't have as much congestion on the road. Now there are not a lot of cars on the road, the traffic isn't that bad, but once the world or the county reopens and everyone's back to almost nearly their daily lives of what it was before, COVID and everything shut down, the traffic will be the same. Sure, there have been improvements to some of the roads where paving has happened, but the roads haven't been expanded to allow for more vehicles to be on the roads at the same time. Our public transit system is horrible. In District 1, if you wanted to go from MSA, Manatee School for the Arts, to Palmetto High School, you'd have to wait for 2 hours for the bus to come because it only runs every 2 hours. The bus doesn't pass 72nd by the post office out in Ellington. So if you wanted to go anywhere east of 72nd and 301, you couldn't get there. And even if you were to catch the bus there, it'd still be 2 hours between each bus running. So I think that we could make our bus routes more user-friendly so that people can take the bus if they wanted to and they didn't have to wait 2 hours for each bus to run, that the routes could be shorter so that the buses could go more frequently, and that the routes could be extended out to places like Parrish, so that people would have other forms of transportation rather than taking their cars. Out in that area, you'll see people on golf carts sometimes, and they're on the sidewalks because they don't want to take their car from point A to point B, and that's fine. But I spoke to another a young girl who's in high school. She has a part-time job at one of the businesses out in our district. And she told me, she said, I have to make my work hours around my parents' work hours because I don't have a driver's license and I can't catch the bus to go to work. That's a problem. If we can't have people who want to work within our district be able to get to those jobs in those districts without depending on someone getting in their car and physically taking them, that does a disservice to our residents who are out in that area. So traffic and transportation are the two biggest issues that I see within our district. There are other issues such as infrastructure that can be worked on. It needs to be discussed, and there needs to be a more concrete plan on how we're developing the properties that are out within our district. Again, there are people in our district who feel like their voices are not heard, people who've lived in our district for generations and generations, where their families, settled way back and aren't just moving to our district now, who feel like they didn't know the decisions that were being made with the properties that are around their property until after construction had begun. So I think that we need to have more communications. We need to make ourselves more available to the people who live in that district to make sure that if we're addressing